Next, do we have Ken Berlin? Ken's the superintendent of the Wattsburg School District in Erie County. So since I'm in Philadelphia, I'm probably as far away from you as can possibly be.
Yes, we're in the forgotten corner of Pennsylvania, we like to say.
For weeks at a time this school year, the 13 school districts in Erie County resorted to virtual learning to stay safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. On March 2nd, Wattsburg Area Superintendent Ken Berlin addressed the Pennsylvania House Democratic Policy Committee about the issues he faced when going remote.
Internet saturation through the district is really sparse, with only about 50% of our families having access to internet service. So the pandemic has revealed just how much of a digital divide there exists in Pennsylvania, especially in rural areas, which is really most of the state.
The Wattsburg School District noticed students were falling behind when learning from home, just like all the other school districts who responded to us for this story.
We're checking in on them, we're making phone calls, we're sending emails, we're sending reminders, we're nudging when people are falling behind, which sadly is a lot of the communication with these families, is letting them know that their child or son, their daughters aren't logging in to do the necessary work to be successful.
At the high school level, we saw as much as a 30% failure rate. And these are students who ordinarily would have done much better.
It was almost a whole year if we take a look at March, where we had to go remote. Certainly it's been a challenge throughout the year. I think this year has gone a lot better than what happened in the spring. We had to shift very quickly to remote instruction. This year we were able to move to synchronous remote instruction. So every day students are interacting with their teachers, which has been much better.
But grades are the end result, not the problem.
We aren't tracking grades as much as the school districts would be tracking, but in general, kids can't perform in school if they're not in school. Just to give you an idea, in the month of January, we received 183 truancy referrals. When in average January, we receive around 20 to 30. We're talking 3 or 4 kids in one household who are all trying to use a hotspot. Parents have to choose between going to work themselves and supervising their kids on virtual education.
When we see those kids are falling behind, we reach out as a district to those families. And I would say it's about 75-25. 75% of the people we can get a hold of and try to work with, and 25% of the people are just like, leave us alone and stay away from us.
The pandemic has been a loss for everybody. If you take structure, you take education, you take routine out of their daily lives, most human beings are going to become complacent. And I saw a change in their routines to where they started getting a little lazy and they forgot the importance of that structure.
There is no replacement for or supplanting of solid instructional models that are grounded in in-person teaching.
Learning remotely put an added responsibility on the students, and many did not meet expectations, both in Erie County and the country.
The hurdles they struggled to clear included slow internet, lack of focus, learning disabilities, or worse.
Domestics are the #1 call that we respond to here at the Erie Police Department. Approximately 16 to 20 domestic calls a day. Children who witness domestic violence in their house, there's probably a pretty good chance that if one partner is being violent towards the other, that they're also being violent towards those juveniles. It is actually heartbreaking when you think about it, that the one thing that they had to get out of the house, to get out of that environment, was to go to school.
As you can see, we've seen a general increase from year to year. Then you look at 2020 and you notice a huge jump, especially in child protective services, and then even really in the general protective services. We receive a call if there's a situation that demands it. That sometimes does happen if one parent leaves the home, or one caregiver has to leave the home, or maybe even sometimes both caregivers. It may not be appropriate to take care of the child. And so now school becomes a back burner issue, right? They're more focused on getting food for the day. They're more focused on surviving the day, where the last thing on their mind is a virtual education.
The one issue that comes up is that the numbers that are being reported could potentially be much lower than what's actually happening. And we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of cases that aren't being reported. So with COVID, we feel like with the isolation and all that stuff that's going on, that's making the number even less apparent. I think about some of the children I have worked with. Sometimes a trigger could be a color of clothing. So if you think about all those types of things that they have to work through and deal with, they have a lot.
Fortunately, 3 school districts in the county have at least one community school through the United Way, a partnership that provided much-needed resources to many students during the pandemic.
There's so many different barriers that are beyond control of so many, but impact the ability for students to learn. The benefits of the community school model is it's designed to adjust to changing needs in communities. This was a big change that happened very rapidly, but the community schools could provide additional support. Meals, hygiene items, getting masks and sanitary cleansers and things out to families. With regard to the technology gap, it took some time for all of the iPad or Chromebook orders to be fulfilled. But we worked very quickly with our district partners and our community school partners to support not only the connection of families to those resources, but how to use them. In addition to that, we have a really strong network of behavioral health providers that worked diligently to transition mental or behavioral health services to telehealth.
I think that the pandemic really highlighted the need for the community schools model. We have some additional challenges being an urban school district with a high amount of poverty. So having that network in place for our families has been huge.
The idea of a community school is to help our students, parents, staff, families, community all be successful. And that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to take all those stepping stone pieces to helping our community be stronger. Without the community school and the United Way in supporting some of this, these schools would have really struggled.
Every child deserves the same quality education and opportunity in life. And so by listening and working with our partnerships, we're able to do what we can to bring some of that into the school to reduce that burden. So every child in our community can benefit from a high quality education.
Currently, the school districts in Erie County have all returned to in-person learning, the last being Erie City School District in April. Now, several are taking aggressive action to catch their students up and get them back on the right path.
One that we are really proud of is a partnership between students and students. And that is, we have our high school students who are academically sound, providing tutoring to lots of our students in the middle and elementary school level.
Unfortunately, the kids ideally lost 2 years of structure. I think where this program comes in, we still try to emphasize the importance of education, where they're playing and hanging out with their peers. And, it basically gets them back into the routine.
Programs both during school and after school are now back in place because the Commonwealth has reopened. The United Way Erie received a $2 million grant from the U.S. Department of Education and will add case managers to help their current community schools. High school seniors are working hard in the final month to graduate on time, and more children are returning to the Police Athletic League every week. However, according to Mike Whitney, truancy is still a problem in the county as the numbers have only improved slightly since January. The pandemic has already had a major effect on students of all ages. Will that impact hinder their education moving forward to next year and beyond? Only time will tell. For YourErie.com, I'm Spencer Lee.